The problem is not just about your husband not getting it, right? It's not about that. I know it could seem like that's the problem, and if he just understood you, things would work out better. That's actually the surface level problem there. What lies underneath is how you two are going about this misunderstanding, because misunderstandings are going to happen, right? This is not something that we can avoid. It would be a million times easier if they understood everything that we said and we understood everything that they said, but that's just not how things work. We all grow up learning to communicate differently. And sometimes the way we communicate is going to be off putting for someone else, or it's going to send off a different message than what we were trying to say. The core problem is actually the patterns that you guys have developed while communicating. That is what's breaking down.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. This episode is for those who are feeling like anytime they talk to their husbands about something important, he just doesn't get it. Something that you think should be a simple conversation ends up turning into a fight, and you're not able to get through it together. You're not able to work through it. You're not able to come to a resolution. You feel more distant than ever. And then what happens? Time passes as you sweep it under the rug, and then it comes up again. And so you find yourself wondering, what am I supposed to do if no matter what I try, he just doesn't get it? And we're just going to end up arguing about this another time. And so we're going to be talking about this because this is something that comes up so often with my clients that come to me asking for help, feeling like they just are at a loss for what to do next. They've done everything that they could think of. They've tried talking it out. They've tried giving it space. They've tried to ignore it. And it still is an issue. It's bothering them. It's starting to affect how they see their partner. It's starting to affect how they interact with them. And now the stress and the disconnect is so apparent that they're really afraid of what their future looks like and how this is impacting their kids. And so before I dive in, I just want to say, if this is you, this is so common. You are not alone. So many couples experience this, and it is stressful. And it is due to a lack of having the tools to navigate conflict. This is due to you not growing up having this modeled to you. Like, what does healthy communication look like? I don't know, right? You communicate the way that you do as a result of what you witnessed growing up. And because you weren't taught at school and because you weren't taught at home, you've kind of been left to fend for yourself to figure things out. But guess what? You've got all these other things that are going on. And so maybe it hasn't been something that you focused on because it's hard. And sometimes we just like to avoid what feels hard. But now you're getting to that point where you're like, I can't avoid this anymore. It is so all-encompassing, and it is heavily impacting my day-to-day life. And so I've got to figure it out. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way to do this. You don't have to experience this anymore. And we're going to dive into it. Okay. This is why my clients come to me, so that they can get the support, have someone guiding them through the process, teaching them the tools that they didn't learn growing up, without having to feel like they have to trial and error their way through it and have that immediate feedback of, okay, this is what I could have done differently. This is what I'm learning from what I just did, and keep improving how they communicate in their marriage. So let's dive into what's really going on here, okay? The problem is not just about your husband not getting it, right? It's not about that. I know it could seem like that's the problem, and if he just understood you, things would work out better. That's actually the surface level problem there. What lies underneath is how you two are going about this misunderstanding, because misunderstandings are going to happen, right? This is not something that we can avoid. It would be a million times easier if they understood everything that we said and we understood everything that they said, but that's just not how things work. We all grow up learning to communicate differently. And sometimes the way we communicate is going to be off putting for someone else, or it's going to send off a different message than what we were trying to say. So, if that's not the core problem, what is the core problem? The core problem is actually the patterns that you guys have developed while communicating. That is what's breaking down. Okay. So, this is what could happen if you are experiencing a unhealthy pattern with your communication in your marriage. It's that you are trying to express how you feel, what you need, and what does he hear? He hears criticism, and then he shuts down. And what do you do in response to that? You get frustrated. You reiterate how much he doesn't understand you, how difficult this is. And because of your reaction, he gets defensive, right? And so the feelings that are coming up escalate, and then they turn into a fight, which leads to no resolution. And then we rinse and repeat this whole pattern. Okay. So the problem isn't him not getting it, it's also not him. And the problem also isn't you. The problem is the pattern. So, why does this keep happening? This keeps happening because, like I said earlier, different communication styles, right? We communicate how we feel and what we want and what we don't want in different ways. We use different words. Our words also carry different meanings depending on the connotations and the underlying meanings that we've learned about specific words growing up. One of you might be very aggressive about your communication, while the other might be more passive. One might be more animated when they communicate, while the other one is more subdued and everything is going on internally, but they have a difficult time expressing themselves externally, right? There's that. There's also past experiences, traumas, pain, unresolved resentment, how you were brought up, how those experiences have affected what you are sensitive to. So you each have different triggers that can very well hijack any moment that reminds you of that time. And then also a lack of tools for how to navigate healthy communication without it becoming this fight and keeping it productive. No one taught us this. No one taught me this. I had to seek out this information. I had to read books about how to have healthy communication. I've had to work with a life coach to understand myself more. I've had to test what I've learned and practice and hone it. And I'm still not a master at it. And we don't ever need to be, okay? Just to relieve pressure. Even as a marriage coach, I am still working on improving how I communicate. This is a journey that we are never, ever there, right? Like the finish line is not something that we will ever reach because we are human, because there's going to be times where you're going to get it right. And then there's going to be times, let's say you've got a lot of stress going on, or you're tired, or you're hungry, or something is just really triggering you. You're maybe not going to be on your A game, right? Because when our emotions feel really big and overwhelming, our nervous system is going to do its best to protect ourselves. So that means that we're going to react, whether it's choosing to fight, like being critical, aggressive, passive aggressive, whatever your MO is, or you're going to want to flight, like walk away, escape the situation, or freeze or fawn. Okay. So this means that there are so many different ways that conflict can pan out, but that doesn't mean that you're locked into this cycle forever. There are things that you can do to pivot away from these cycles and learn different ways to handle stuff so that you can have a different outcome. So every time you have a situation, it gets better and better. And you'll start to notice when things start to go in the wrong direction, back to those unhealthy cycles, you can bring yourself back and head in a better direction. So here's what you can do differently, okay? Pause before reacting, okay? As someone who is naturally reactive, or I don't know, that's hard to say, right? I am an Aries, so I do tend to be very quick-witted and reactive, but also I witnessed a lot of reactivity growing up. And so I'm going to say this is like nature and nurture going against me here with being reactive. Pausing doesn't come natural to everyone. If pausing comes natural to you, I am so happy for you. That is something that I continuously have to remind myself to do, to remember that it is so helpful when I do this, okay? And the reason behind this is rarely does it ever benefit us in a argument to be reactive. If something is happening that triggers us and there's a sense of urgency, that means that we're not feeling grounded. We are not feeling calm. That means that we have a lot of feelings going on, and that urgency can lead us to make rash decisions, decisions that aren't fully thought out, right? So when our emotions are high, our patience is low, our logic is low. There's this post that I recently saw about how we can teach our kids the two different brains that we have. Obviously, not physically, right? But the two types of ways that we experience the world through our brain as a way to help them understand what's happening to them when they are flooded with their feelings and why they can easily spiral out of control. As human beings, our brains don't develop fully until we're in our mid-20s, like 25, 26. And what I recently learned was that our emotional brain, our feeling brain, actually develops before our logical brain. So our logical brain, the one that's in charge of us making really good decisions, that doesn't fully develop until we're 25, 26. Whereas our feeling brain, that develops sooner. And so when our feeling brain is taking over, it's often a lot louder than our logic brain. And so our logic brain, our thinking brain, kind of takes a back seat because the feeling brain is like, I got this, I'm taking over. But when we pause and allow those feelings to settle, not silence them because that's not helpful, but when we check in with our feelings, that's when we learn more about what we're needing. Our feelings are always there to help us out. Maybe not in the best way, but there's always a positive, protective nature to our feelings. And when we tune in and listen for what it is that it's trying to communicate with us, we can learn so much about what we are missing, what we are needing, what we don't like, and use that as information to help us proceed more productively. So when we pause and we allow ourselves to come back to a neutral space where we're not so hot-headed, we give time to understand ourselves better, and then we open it up and we can think more about the situation as a whole, because that's when our thinking brain can come back in and like, oh, there's space for us to show up now. Let's help navigate this situation. Okay, so the two areas don't work together at the same time. The feeling brain jumps in a lot quicker than the thinking brain. And it's up to us as humans who are capable of growing and evolving to take space for that feeling brain to get everything out that it needs and allow the thinking brain to come in and also hear them out. This is where we can avoid the yelling, the name calling, the judging, the criticizing, the parts of us that come out because we're angry, because we're frustrated, because we're resentful, to quote unquote protect us. When we give ourselves space, there's no need to do that. We just process what's happening. And then the thinking brain can come in and we can process some more and then approach a situation a lot more effectively and productively, calmly, and do it in a way that our partner doesn't feel the need to run away or fight back, but rather they feel like, oh, they are actually here to have a conversation, not to pick a fight, not to put me down, not to tell me I'm a failure, not to tell me that I'm not doing a good job as a partner. The second one is bring up what you're noticing. Name the pattern. If you keep noticing that you're having the same kind of fight over and over and over and over again, that is a pattern. You have noticed that you're in a pattern. So stay away from calling out the person as the problem, like blaming. We don't want to blame. Blaming only puts your partner on the defensive. Blaming will only have them checking out of the conversation or choosing to think of ways to hurt you back. Instead, let's talk about the pattern. Let's talk about how we want to change how we talk about things, how we approach the problem together as a team. And shifting your perspective and approach to this is going to have your partner joining forces with you rather than feeling like you're on two different sides of the issue and you guys are fighting against each other. That's what we want to avoid. Okay. That's not how we turn conflict into growth. That's how we turn conflict into a fight, into an argument, into more resentment. The third thing is focus on seeking clarity and understanding instead of convincing. Okay. This goes against probably everything that you've learned about communication. We grow up thinking we need to help our partner or whoever we're talking to understand us better. Once they understand, then obviously we're going to be good because the problem is that they don't understand. And so what do we do with that logic? We push our point. We're constantly trying to find ways to prove them wrong, find ways to show that our way of thinking, our way of doing things is the only way that makes sense. But what this does is that it creates more stubbornness, more defensiveness, and he's only going to do the same back to you. He's going to want to prove his point. He's going to want to push back. He's not going to want to listen. And so instead of creating an environment where neither of you are listening, it's important to focus on curiosity. Like, what is going on here? Help me understand where you're coming from. Find commonality with how you guys are thinking about things and then express your truth without putting their truth down, without feeling like only one set of truths can exist at one time. Both can exist. You two can have two wildly different experiences and both be true. So how can you treat this as like a puzzle that you're trying to solve together, a word problem that you're trying to resolve together? Like, okay, we've got this and we've got this, right? Recently, I went to an escape room for my birthday. I just turned 40. I am just so excited to enter this new decade. I'm very thrilled to be in this phase of life where I'm at right now, minus like the hurting body, but it is what it is. But anyway, during the escape room, there are so many different pieces of information that you are trying to make sense out of. And at first it's like, what do we do with this? And you kind of just set it to the side and you go look for another clue. Or you see a riddle and you're like, oh, I think this connects with that one. I want you to approach your conversations and communication and issues like that. Okay, Here's one piece of the puzzle. Here's another piece of the puzzle. Let's figure out how they all piece together so that we can figure out what to do next. And notice that I'm saying we, right? Conflict should be dealt with as partners. And while everything is trying to push you into dealing with this separately and thinking that you guys are against each other, I want you to double down on treating this as a team bonding experience. So instead of trying to fight to have the microphone and talk, what if you guys are working together to figure out, okay, what are the pieces of information that you have? These are the pieces of information that I have. What do we do with this? What's the next step that we can take? What is the actual problem that we're solving? How can we navigate this together and allow this to help us learn more about ourselves, about each other, so that the next time this comes up or something similar comes up, we will be more prepared to navigate this with less drama, with less difficulty, and get through it faster. Okay? So those are some great ways to navigate conflict. Pause before reacting, name the pattern and deal with it as a pattern, not choosing to see the person as the problem, and then focus on clarity, understanding, instead of convincing each other what to think, what to believe, what to do. Okay? And a great way to get started with conflict is actually something that I share in my free conflict to connection guide. I highly recommend that you download this. This is a great resource to help you process your feelings. It's a great set of questions that will help you sort through what's happening so that you yourself can receive more clarity, so you can feel more confident going into a conversation, knowing exactly what your experience was like, how you feel, what it is that you want, what you don't want, what you need to happen. So you can go in there already equipped with your truth instead of trying to figure out what you feel, what you want, what you don't want while your partner's talking. And so what does this allow you to do? This allows you to have the capacity to listen to them, right? So that you can actually take in what he's saying, rather than listening to have something to say back to him. You're actually genuinely listening and taking in what he's saying and factoring that into everything, just like with the puzzle piece and escape room example that I gave you. Okay, so go download that. You don't have to stay stuck in this cycle that you're in. Okay, so it's not about fixing your husband. It's not about getting him to understand. It's about changing how you guys work together so you can change the pattern with how you deal with conflict, because conflict is going to keep coming up, right? It's not something that you can avoid. It is inevitable. But you know what isn't inevitable? Arguing. Okay? Arguing is completely optional, and you deserve to learn how to navigate conflict in a way that you can use conflict as a way to grow, as a way to feel heard, as a way to connect. Okay? So grab the guide, and if you want personalized support, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to help you. And of course, if you know someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please send this to them. And if you love the show, I would love it if you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And that's it for today. I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.